Hey everybody, welcome back to day 5. This is a bonus video for launch week. We're closing out launch week for AstroMommy's 1-year tarot journal. And today I have a special guest, my daughter Kaliandra, who actually illustrated the cover.
Hi.
All right, so today we're going to be talking about the vision for the cover art, but we also wanted to talk about 3 things that you need to get started on your tarot journey. So, Kali, have you ever drawn a cover for a book before?
No.
So this is your first one. I'm so pleased to be your first cover art. Okay, see how beautiful this is? So, if you need a book cover, Kaliandra the Piquarius, hit her up on Instagram. She does really great work. Okay, do you remember the day that I asked you if you would draw the cover art for the journal? And I told you my vision that I wanted to be like the Hermit, which is my life birth card. And you made me stand there and turn to the side and hold the lantern so you could get a good picture.
Yes.
Yeah. So you're the first person to use the journal. So how has that process been for you? Have you picked any cards? Have you done a 1-card spread or a weekend spread or the monthly spread?
I have done both the daily spread and the month spread.
Nice. For those of you who don't know, the AstroMommy's 1-year tarot journal has 3 different spreads, and the way that it works is there's a 1-card daily spread layout for each day of the week, and you pick a card, and then you can write in the interpretations and your reflections. And then on the weekend, there's a 3-card daily spread where you pick 3 cards and you do like a past, present, future spread, or you do something like that. There's a list of ideas in the back, to inspire your 3-card spreads. And then for the monthly reflection, there is a Celtic cross spread in here. Here it is. And you can do that in the beginning of the month or any time of the month or at the end of the month. Do you have a daily entry that you wouldn't mind sharing?
Let me just do this.
So here's the spot where you can write in the day. Where you can write in the card, or you can draw in a little sketch. And I see that you did a nice little sketch. And then you just put the name of the deck underneath. That's really good.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even think of that, having a spot for the deck name. That's good. I have to put that in my idea list for later. Okay, and so walk me through pulling the card for the day and your process of using the journal.
Well, first of all, I pick which deck I'm going to use, whichever one I feel like using, the one that speaks to me for the day. Then I fill out the basic information on the side, fill out the date, fill out whatever the card was, and then keywords, either, ones that I already know are associated, or just ones that I think of that I feel like fit with the vibe of the card, the energy of the card, the art of the card, and I'll write down whatever words come to mind, and then whatever my interpretation is. Either if if I need to look up an interpretation in a book that either came with it or in some other source, just Googling it sometimes. Or I will usually just do whatever I intuitively get from the card, whatever is my interpretation from the art, the expressions in the art, the different elements of the art, and what those elements represent to me. And I'll write down a really quick interpretation based on those things. And then afterwards, I'll just draw a really quick little sketchy thing of whatever the art of the card was, so that I can remember what's the art, and with that, write on the deck. And then I'll go and I'll write down whatever my longer interpretation kind of means, or how that kind of relates, what I feel like during my day went with the card. Either that's already happened, or that happens later. I'll just write down what I feel like I connected to the card.
Awesome. Have you used the card date tracker yet?
I have used the card date tracker because I thought it would be really interesting to find out if anything continues. And I have wrote that down. And what I did for that was I marked the date on whatever the thing was. And then what I did also do was I wrote a little symbol next to each of the things if I use a specific deck. And most of the time when I've used this book so far, I've just used my Pokemon Tarot deck. So I just have a little Pokemon next to pretty much all of them.
Nice.
But if I use another deck, then I probably come up with some other symbol in my head that'll represent it. If there's multiple, then I'll probably write like a little key or something. It's like this symbol means this little thing in like the corner.
Nice.
But that way I can like be like not only track the date, but I can also track what deck did I often feel the most drawn to. Which deck have I built the most connection with and learned to understand the most, because there's gonna be, people end up with all sorts of decks. I have a decent amount of decks, and I just had to be interesting. More to check on the cards, might as well check to see if there's any deck that I feel the most connected to. Because over time you'll learn to read each deck differently and better, and they'll be a little different than each other one.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so you've done some 1-card spreads, and you haven't done the 3-card spread yet, but you have done a Celtic Cross spread.
Yes.
And so tell me about that process, and how did it work for you, and did you enjoy the layout and whatnot?
I actually really enjoyed the Celtic Cross spread. I feel like having a lot of cards, most times when I've done readings, I will either do, I'll just do a quick card for the day, usually from an oracle deck or something, or from a tarot thing, and I'll use this. Or I will do a larger spread, which is what I would do more often, because it's just fun to draw a lot of cards. But I did find that this one was very nice, because not only did it have a lot of things, but it's also kind of nice to have a little bit of guidance on what each of the cards represent, and then I can, and to kind of get that down, have something like the significator to represent kind of, I forget what the significator represents, but having the significator and knowing what that is, as well as having the ability to look at what that is if I forget it in the back.
Yeah, so you used the detailed outline in the back.
I did. I looked at the detailed outline in the back so that I could kind of get to know the Celtic Cross a little bit more, because when it's right here, you can see it all. But having the ability to look back and see all how to identify what the significator is, how to figure out what it would be for you personally, which also means if you wanted to get clarity on a card, like it says in the back, you can use that as your significator, have it like that. But also, then you have all the cards and you lay them out, and they've all got the keywords and what they represent and all those things, and so having it kind of organized and what each card is, and so it's really helpful for when you're learning how to read a spread. Because if you do it, and you just do a spread, you may not always know how to start reading it. And then, over time you might figure it out. But if you have a specific spread, it's nice because it guides you in the direction, which card to read first, how it all connects to each other, rather than just trying to figure out, how does it all connect to each other, which you can do. Right. But organization can be very helpful.
Well, and plus, depending on the position, the card will mean different things.
Yes, yeah.
So, the same card could be in position 1 for one reading, but then in position 9 for another reading, and it's going to have completely different. Yes. And it's going to bring up different things and have different meanings.
And so, having that and, being able to help you so you can figure out how to interpret it and how to understand it is a helpful tool, especially when you're learning how to do that. And even if you're not just learning, it's just kind of nice, makes it a little bit easier. And for this, you want to be really simple, because it's just month. It's all has to do with your keeping track of the month, the days, the weeks, or whatever. And you want it to be kind of something you can do kind of quickly, or take the time to do it, but you want to be able to not have to go crazy.
Right.
Because otherwise, you're gonna not do it as consistently as you want.
Yeah. Okay, so you mentioned that you use your Pokemon deck a lot.
Yes.
And that brings me to the next topic that I wanted to discuss today, which was the 3 things that you need to get started on your tarot journal. And so, number 1, we suggest getting AstroMommy's 1-year tarot journal, but you could also just use a notebook, or you could use download the PDFs on Etsy. I sell the PDFs separately for the 1-card, 3-card, and the 10-card Celtic Cross spreads. So if you wanted to DIY your own journal, you could do that. But you need some sort of place to record your readings. And I guess you could also use a notes app or something like that if you want to be tech savvy. But there is a magic in writing
It
and
is very
drawing.
nice.
I think that there's something that's really nice about the tangibleness of that. So you need yourself some sort of journal or place to record your readings, and then you're going to need a deck. And so she said she uses the Pokemon deck, and I just brought out my favorite Rider-Waite tarot deck, which is the Universal Weight tarot deck. And here is my little prototype for my new little deck bags that I'm creating that will be up in the Etsy shop soon. So you need a deck, you need a journal or a place to record your readings, and you need a deck of choice. And then you also need some sort of guidebook. So this is the PDF that you get for free with the purchase of the journal. Inside the front cover, there is a QR code, and then you have access to this PDF, which you can keep on your computer or access through your phone or whatever, or you can print it out like I did and bind it up and keep it on your desk as a desk reference or wherever you keep your tarot cards and whatnot. Or if you have a guidebook that comes with another deck, you can use that, or you can look online, or you can use your intuition as your guidebook. But you do need those three things. We always have our intuition, which is good. But you need a journal or a place to put your reading, a deck, and a guidebook of some sort to get started. And you were talking a lot about using your intuition and reading the cards intuitively earlier. And how has that gone for you so far?
I found that usually helps me resonate with the card a lot. I'm obviously an artist, so I tend to connect a lot with the visuals and the art, and in my head I'll think of a lot of visuals, and so when I'm looking at the art, a lot of times I'll look at a lot of the elements because I make it myself.
Exactly. And tarot's so symbolic. The symbolism is so important. So to connect with that and use your intuition to jot down whatever is coming up for you from the card's artwork is a great interpretive skill. Yes. And one of the things that I found by doing this process with myself of pulling a daily card and then a larger weekend spread and then a monthly, Celtic cross spread was that I was able to really tap into my intuition. And through tracking my progress, I learned to trust my intuition. Because as I said in one of the previous videos, I really didn't trust my intuition. I didn't think that I was a good tarot reader. I didn't think that I was good at predicting anything or understanding any of that stuff. But through time, I started to notice a lot of synchronicities and repetitive things that would come up. And I realized, oh, that was my intuitive hunch. And therefore, I built trust within myself.
Yeah.
So I could trust the cues that my intuition and my body and stuff were giving me, which I think is so neat. And, that's one thing that doing a spiritual practice like this every single day, you will start to learn that and you'll start to be able to trust yourself.
Yeah, I found that as you read a card more, you use a deck more, you end up getting more in tune with that. I could get to know that one better, but it also, each deck is going to have its own kind of energy that it brings to the reading because they're all made by different artists and they all have different things. Those artists had different interpretations based on what they thought of or felt when they were thinking about the meaning of that card. So some cards, while they have a lot of very similar symbolisms that they'll bring in, they can have a lot of different interpretations because of how the artist interpreted it and put it into a card, into a piece of art. So they all can have a lot of very similar things, but you'll get different energies from each one, and they can have different undertones as well. For example, one of my decks is more to the shadow side, so it's a little bit more about looking not just at the base meanings, but also what is the shadow meaning that you could interpret from those cards. And then, for example, I have my Pokemon deck, and so with that, it's a lot more about Pokemon symbolism, and it's a completely different vibe, even though those cards represent the same base thing. And so you can interpret a lot of different stuff based on whatever deck you have. I'm sure even the base, Rider-Waite type tarot deck, you'll interpret different things than other things, even though that one's just the base stuff, the very basic one.
That it is so rich. It is one of my favorite decks because of the richness and in the symbolism and the nuance in the cards. There's a reason that it is everyone's first deck. One of them. There's another, I believe it's called the Golden Dawn, which is another beginner system that a lot of people learn on. I agree.
Yes. And as you were saying about like hunches and trusting your intuition, I have found that that is also very, very true. Whenever I've done a reading, sometimes I'll, look at it again and then I'll think about it more and I'll be like, I was supposed to be able to predict that? Nah, that's not true. And then later it'll come true and I'm like, what? I'm not, what? That's crazy. So at this point I found trust the intuition, because sometimes what it is a lot of times when you're intuitively understanding the cards and you get to know them better, you'll interpret things that like your inner self, your subconscious is trying to communicate to you and tell you through the way you're interpreting the art, and you may not immediately click with it or like may not even give it, any weight, but really it's your subconscious trying to tell you something that it knows that you may not be letting yourself admit or letting yourself see. Like you might be like consciously, your conscious self is like denying that subconscious or not letting you see it, but through the art and like intuitively seeing the symbolism things, and with all the readings and like practicing and stuff like that and writing it down, it'll really help you see the patterns and look at those things, and maybe you'll write down whatever those things are, even if you don't really feel like those things make sense or those things you wouldn't believe those things. Write them down anyways, because you might come back to it and be like, that happened. Or that was real. That was a thing. Like you might even write something down in a monthly reading note, in your monthly reading notes or your weekly reading notes, and maybe you didn't think about it then, but then you come back like a week or a month or like a year later, and you've reflected a lot, you've grown a lot, you've thought a lot about it, and you realize, I wrote that down. So it's very helpful.
Yeah, and that's like part of the magic of using tarot to get those deeper insights that, like Holly was saying, maybe you're not quite ready for. But when you see it in the cards, you're like, oh, okay, I do actually resonate with that. That is actually true. Okay, I do need to do some internal work on that or some self-care with that particular thing in mind or whatever. And it kind of gives you permission to then move forward with your growth. Just seeing it laid out in the cards or in the astrology is really, really helpful, because it's like a validation. Like, okay, I'm going through this thing and it's not something that's made up in my mind. I'm actually really going through this thing. And okay, these cards, they give you ideas of how to process things or how to move forward. And it can be really helpful and very healing.
It's a very helpful tool to help you connect with yourself through the art and how you connect with it.
So do you have any final reflections for our audience about the tarot journal? Or
I would say that one of the things that's nice about this is that when you do it, it's not dated. That's the whole point. So that then you can go and you can add in all your things, and it doesn't matter the day. If you forget to do it one day, you can just jump right back in, or if you forget to do it in a week, you can just jump back in. The only thing that I have noticed is that if you jump in a month later, or in a different month, you want to come back to that monthly spread, because that's a very nice spread, and I found it, it's really nice to start off the first thing for that month using that spread. But you don't have it if you start right in the middle of like another section.
Right.
So something that I would say is you might want to get that PDF.
Yeah.
So that you can just print it out, stick it in there. Or if you have another journal, just have a way that you can just jump back in. Because all the other, having the days, and you can do the weekends like head of the week or whatever, and it's really close. But if you want to jump in a month later, you're going to want that monthly reading spread. Mm-hmm. And if you're not doing it hyper consistently, which tends to happen with just life, you're going to want that monthly reading spread to just stick in there.
Right. So the PDFs are really helpful, so that you can not only, make a DIY journal if you want to, but you can add the types of readings that you want to add in if you want more of one.
Yes.
So, yeah, that's good. That's a really good point. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. I know this is kind of an impromptu, let's do a video, but I really, really appreciate you coming on, and it was a nice, lovely chat. And so today is the last day to get the journal at 30% off. The link will be in the description below. And you can also head on over to the Etsy shop if you want to get the printables. Those are also 30% off on Etsy as well. All right. Thank you guys so much, and we'll see you next time. Bye.